Canto 19. O Simon Magus, ye his wretched crew, the gifts of God ordained to be the bride of righteousness, ye prostitute that you with gold and silver may be satisfied. Therefore, for you let now the trumpet blow, seeing that ye in the third bulge abide. Arrived at the next tomb, we to the brow of rock ere this had finished our ascent, which hangs true plumb above the pit below. What perfect art, O thou omniscient, is thine in heaven and earth and the bad world found! How justly does thy power its dooms invent! The livid stone on both banks and the ground I saw was full of holes on every side, all of one size, and each of them was round. No larger seemed they to me, nor less wide, than those within my beautiful Saint John for the baptizer's standing place supplied, and one of which, not many years agone, I broke to save one drowning, and I would have this for seal to undeceive men known. Out of the mouth of each were seen protrude a sinner's feet, and of the legs, the small far as the calves, the rest enveloped stood. And set on fire were both the souls of all, which made their ankles wriggle with such throes as had made ropes and withes asunder fall. And as flame fed by unctuous matter goes over the outer surface only spread, so from their heels it flickered to the toes. "Master, who is he tortured more," I said, "than are his neighbors, writhing in such woe, and licked by flames of deeper-hearted red?" And he, "If thou desirest that below I bear thee by that bank which lowest lies, thou from himself his sins and name shalt know." And I, "Thy wishes still for me suffice. Thou art my lord, and knowest I obey thy will, and dost my hidden thoughts surprise." To the fourth barrier then we made our way, and to the left hand turning, downward went into the narrow hole-pierced cavity, nor the good master caused me make descent from off his haunch till we his hole were nigh, who with his shanks was making such lament: "Whoe'er thou art, soul full of misery, set like a stake with lower end upcast," I said to him, "make, if thou canst, reply." I, like a friar, stood who gives the last shrift to a vile assassin, to his side called back to win delay, for him fixed fast. "Art thou arrived already?" Then he cried, "Art thou arrived already, Boniface? By several years the prophecy has lied. Art so soon wearied of the wealthy place, for which thou didst not fear to take with guile, then ruin the fair lady? Now my case was like to theirs who linger on, the while they cannot comprehend what they are told, and as befooled from further speech resile. But Virgil bade me, 'Speak out loud and bold. I am not he thou thinkest, no, not he.' And I made answer as by him controlled. The spirit's feet then twisted violently, and, sighing in a voice of deep distress, he asked, 'What then requirest thou of me, if me to know thou hast such eagerness, that thou the cliff hast therefore ventured down, No, the great mantle sometime was my dress. I of the bear, in sooth, was worthy son, as once the cubs to help, my purse with gain I stuffed. Myself I in this purse have stown. Stretched out at length beneath my head remain all the Simonaics that before me went, and flattened lie throughout the rocky vein. I in my turn shall also make descent. Soon as he comes who I believed thou wast, when I ask quickly what for him was meant. O'er me with blazing feet more time has passed, while upside down I fill the topmost room, than he his crimson feet shall upward cast. For after him one viler still shall come, a pastor from the west, lawless of deed, to cover both of us his worthy doom. A modern Jason he, of whom we read in Maccabees, whose king denied him not. With the French king, so shall this man succeed. Perchance I ventured further than I ought, but I spake to him in this measure free. Ah, tell me now what money was there sought of Peter by our Lord, when either key he gave him in his guardship to hold? Sure he demanded not save, follow me, nor Peter nor the others asked for gold or silver, when upon Matthias fell the lot instead of him, the traitor sold. Keep then thy place, for thou art punished well, and clutch the pelf dishonourably gained, which against Charles made thee so proudly swell. And were it not that I am still restrained by reverence for those tremendous keys, borne by thee while the glad world thee contained, I would use words even heavier than these, seeing your avarice makes the world deplore, crushing the good, filling the bad with ease. 'Twas you, O pastors, the evangelist, bore in mind what time he saw her on the flood of water set, who played with kings the whore, who with 7 heads was born, and as she would by the 10 horns to her was service done, long as her spouse rejoiced in what was good. Now gold and silver are your God alone. What difference 'twixt the idolater and you, save that ye pray 100 for his one? Ah, Constantine, how many evils grew, not from thy change of faith, but from the gift, wherewith thou didst the first rich Pope endue. While I my voice continued to uplift to such a tune, by rage or conscience stirred, both of his souls he made to twist and shift. My guide, I well believe, with pleasure heard, listening he stood with lips so well content, to me propounding truthful word on word. Then round my body both his arms he bent, and, having raised me well upon his breast, climbed up the path by which he made descent. Nor was he by his burden so oppressed, but that he bore me to the bridge's crown, which with the 4th joins the 5th rampart's crest, and lightly here he set his burden down, found light by him upon the precipice, up which a goat uneasily had gone, and thence another valley met mine eyes. Canto 20. Now of new torment must my verses tell, and matter for the 20th canto win of lay the first, which treats of souls in hell. Already was I eager to begin to peer into the visible profound, which tears of agony was bathed in, and I saw people in the valley round, like that of penitence on earth, the pace at which they weeping came, nor uttering sound. When I beheld them with more downcast gaze, that each was strangely screwed about, I learned where chest is joined to chin, and thus the face of every one round to his loins was turned, and stepping backwards, all were forced to go, for naught in front could be by them discerned. Smitten by palsy, although one might show perhaps a shape thus twisted all awry, I never saw, and am to think it slow. As, reader, God may grant thou profit by thy reading, for thyself consider well if I could then preserve my visage dry, when close at hand to me was visible our human form, so wretched that tears rained down out of the eyes, between the buttocks fell. In very sooth I wept, leaning upon a boss of the hard cliff, till on this wise my escort asked, "Of the other fools art one? Here piety receives, here piety revives as pity dies. For who more irreligious is than he in whom God's judgment to regret give rise? Lift up thy head, and thou shalt see him for whom earth yawned as the Thebans saw." All shouting meanwhile, "Whither dost thou flee, Amphiaraus? Wherefore thus withdraw from battle?" But he sinking found no rest, till Minos clutched him with all grasping claw. Lo, how his shoulders serve him for a breast! Because he wished to see too far before backwards he looks, to backward course addressed. Behold Tiresias, who was changed all o'er, till for a man a woman met the sight, and not a limb its former semblance bore, and he behooved a second time to smite the same two twisted serpents with his wand, ere he again in manly plumes was dight. With back to him, see Aaron's next at hand, who up among the hills of Luni, where peasants of near Carrara till the land, among the dazzling marbles, held his lair within a cavern, whence could be descried the sea and stars, of all obstruction bare. The other one, whose flowing tresses hide her bosom, of the which thou seest not, and all whose hair falls on the further side, was Manto, who through many regions sought, where I was born, at last her foot she stayed. It likes me well thou shouldest of this be taught. When from this life her father exit made, and Batrus' city had become enthralled, she for a long time through many countries strayed, 'neath mountains by which Germany is walled, and bounded at Tyrol a lake there lies, high in fair Italy, Benacus called. The waters of 1,000 springs that rise twixt Val Camonica and Garda flow down Pennine, and their flood this lake supplies. And from a spot midway, if they should go thither, the pastors of Verona, Trent, and Brescia might their blessings all bestow. Peschiera, with its strength for ornament, facing the Brescians and the Bergamese, lies where the bank to the lower curve is bent, and there the waters, seeking more of ease. For in Pinacus is not room for all, forming a river, laps by green degrees. The river, from its very source, men call no more Benacus, 'tis as Mincho known, which into Po does at Governo fall. A flat it reaches, ere it far has run, spreading o'er which it feeds a marshy fen, whence oft in summer pestilence has grown. Wayfaring here the cruel virgin, when she found land girdled by the marshy flood, untilled and uninhabited of men, that she might escape all human neighborhood, stayed on it with her slaves, her arts to ply, and there her empty body was bestowed. On this the people of the country nigh into that place came crowding for the spot, girt by the swamp, could all attack defy. And for the town built o'er her body sought a name from her who made it first her seat, calling it Mantua without casting lot. The dwellers in it were in number great, till stupid Casalodi was befooled and victimized by Pinamonte's cheat. Hence, shouldst thou ever hear, now be thou schooled, another story to my town assigned. Let by no fraud the truth be overruled. And I, thy reasonings, master, to my mind so cogent are, and win by faith so well, what others say I shall black embers find. But of this people passing onward tell, if thou of any something canst declare, for all my thoughts on that intently dwell. And then he said, the one whose bearded hair falls from his cheeks upon his shoulders done, was, when the land of Greece of males so bare, was grown the very cradles scarce held one, an augur, he with Calchas gave the sign in Aulis through the first rope knife to run. Eriplus was he called, and in some line of my high tragedy is sung the same, as thou knowest well, who madest it wholly thine. That other, thin of flank, was known to fame as Michael Scott, and of a verity he knew right well the black arts in most game. Guido Bonatti and Asdente, see who mourns he ever should have parted from his thread and leather, but too late mourns he. Lo, the unhappy women who left loom, spindle, and needle, that they might divine, with herb and image, hastening men's doom. But come, for where the hemispheres confine Cain and the thorns is falling, to alight underneath Seville on the ocean line. The moon was full already yesternight, which to recall thou shouldst be well content, for in the wood she somewhat helped thy plight. Thus spake he to me, while we forward went. Canto 21. Conversing still from bridge to bridge we went, but what our words I in my comedy care not to tell. Atop of the ascent holding, we halted the next pit to spy, of Malibulge, with plaints bootless all. There darkness full of wonder met the eye, as the Venetians in their arsenal boil the tenacious pitch at wintertide, to caulk the ships with for repairs that call, for then they cannot sail, and so, instead, one builds his bark afresh. One stops, with tow his vessel's ribs, by many a voyage tried. One hammers at the poop, one at the prow. Some fashion oars, and others cables twine, and others at the jib and mainsails sew. So, not by fire, but by an art divine, pitch of thick substance, boiled in that low hell, and all the banks did as with plaster line. I saw it, but distinguished nothing well, except the bubbles, by the boiling raised, now swelling up, and ceasing now to swell. While down upon it fixedly I gazed. "Beware, beware," my leader to me said, and drew me thence close to him. I, amazed, turned sharply round, like him who was delayed, fain to behold the thing he ought to flee. Then, losing nerve, grows suddenly afraid, nor lingers longer what there is to see. For a black devil I beheld advance over the cliff behind us rapidly. Ah me, how fierce was he of countenance! What bitterness he in his gesture put, as with spread wings he o'er the ground did dance. Upon his shoulders, prominent and acute, was perched a sinner, fast by either hip, and him he held by tendon of foot. He from our bridge, ho, Malebranche, grip an elder, brought from Santa Zita's town. Stuff him below. Myself once more I slip back to the place where lack of such is none. There, save Bonturo, barrates every man, and no grows yes that money may be won. He shot him down, and o'er the cliff began to run, nor unchained mastiff o'er the ground, chasing a robber, swifter e'er ran. The other sank, then rose with the back bent round. But from beneath the bridge the devils cried, "Not here the sacred countenance is found. One swims not here as on the Serico's tide. So if thou wouldst not with our grapplers deal, do not on surface of the pitch abide." Then he 100 hooks was made to feel. "Best dance down there," they said, the while to him, "where, if thou canst, thou on the sly mayst steal." So scullions by the cooks are set to trim the cauldrons, and with forks the pieces steep down in the water, that they may not swim. And the good master said to me, "Now creep behind a rocky splinter for a screen, so from their knowledge thou thyself shalt keep. And fear not, thou although with outrage keen I be opposed, for I am well prepared, and formerly have in like contest been." Then passing from the bridge's crown he fared to the 6th bank, and when thereon he stood, he needed courage, doing what he dared. In the same furious and tempestuous mood in which the dogs upon the beggar leap, who, halting suddenly, seeks alms or food, they issued forth from underneath the deep vault of the bridge, with grapplers against him stretched. But he exclaimed, "Aloof and harmless keep, ere I by any of your hooks be touched. Come, one of you, and to my words give ear, and then advise you if I should be clutched." All cried, "Let Malacoda then go near." on which one moved, the others standing still. He coming said, "What will this help him here? O Malakota, it is credible that I am come." My master then replied, "Secure your opposition to repel, without heaven's will and fate upon my side. Let me advance, for 'tis by heaven's behest that I on this rough road another guide." Then was his haughty spirit so depressed, he let his hook drop sudden to his feet, and, strike him not, commanded all the rest. My leader charged me thus, "Thou from thy seat, where mid the bridge's ribs thou crouchest low, rejoin me now in confidence complete." Whereon I to rejoin him was not slow. And then the devils, crowding, came so near, I feared they to their paction false might show. So at Caprona saw I footmen near, spite of their treaty, when a multitude of foes received them, crowding front and rear. With all my body braced, I closer stood to him, my leader, and intently eyed the aspect of them, which was far from good. Lowering their grapplers, 'mong themselves they cried, "Shall I now tickle him upon the thigh?" "Yea, see thou clip him deftly," one replied. The demon, who in parley had drawn nigh unto my leader, upon this turn drowned. "Scarmiglione, lie thy weapon by," he said, and then to us, "No way is found further along this cliff, because, undone, all the 6th arch lies ruined on the ground. But if it please you further to pass on, over this rocky bridge advancing climb to the next rib, where passage may be won. Yestreen, but 5 hours later than this time, 1266 years reached an end, since the way lost the wholeness of its prime. Thither I, some of mine, will straightway send, to see that none peer forth to breathe the air. Go on with them. You they will not offend. You, Alkeen, and Calcabrin, prepare to move, he bade. Cagnazzo, thou as well, guiding the 10, thou, Barbariccia, fair, with Dragignazzo, Libicocco fell, fanged Ciriatto, Graffiacane too. Set on mad Rubicant and Farfarel. Search on all quarters round the boiling glue. Let these go safe, till at the bridge they be, which doth unbroken o'er the caverns go. Alas, my master, what is this I see? Said I. Unguided, let us forward set, if thou knowest how. I wish no company. If former caution thou dost not forget, dost thou not remark how each his teeth doth grind, the while toward us their brows are full of threat? And he, I would not fear, should fill they mind. Let them grin all they will, and all they can, 'tis at the wretches in the pitch confined. They wheeled, and down the left-hand bank began to march, but first each bit his tongue, and passed the signal on to him, who led the van. He answered grossly, as with trumpet blast.